Today, we're going deep, deep inside our own heads to talk about one of the most vital, ancient, and honestly most overlooked parts of our anatomy. It's the unsung hero that keeps you alive moment to moment. And to really get a feel for its power, we have to start with a puzzle. So, picture this. A patient comes in with a totally baffling set of symptoms. The left side of their face is paralyzed, can't move it at all. But it's the right side of their body, their arm and leg, that's gone weak. How is that even possible? It sounds bizarre, right? Like something made up for a TV show. But this is a real clinical mystery. Well, the key to solving this strange puzzle isn't in the parts of our brain that do the high-level thinking or feeling. Nope, the answer is hidden in the wiring of the brain's absolute foundation, the brainstem. And we're going to break down exactly how that works. To get there, first, you've got to understand why the brainstem is so incredibly important. You can think of it as the brain's critical crossroads, the central station connecting our higher command centers to, well, everything else. So what is it exactly? Well, officially, it's the stalk-like structure that acts as a bridge between the big thinking part of your brain, the cerebrum, and your spinal cord. But calling it just a bridge doesn't even come close. It runs all the fundamental systems, your heartbeat, your breathing, your consciousness itself. It is, quite literally, the part of your brain you cannot live without. Really, the best way to wrap your head around the brainstem is to think of it as your body's master autopilot. It handles all the mission-critical systems, and you never have to give them a single thought. So let's take a look under the hood. The brainstem has this elegantly simple layout. It's basically 3 sections stacked like building blocks. Up top, you've got the midbrain. In the middle, the pons. And at the bottom, connecting to the spinal cord, is the medulla oblongata. Each part is a specialist, managing a different piece of your body's incredibly complex operations.
The sheer elegance of this autopilot system is it's amazing. Think about it. Right now, as you're sitting there watching this, your brainstem is managing your heart rate, it's adjusting your breathing, it's keeping you upright in your chair. It is a relentless, flawless manager, juggling millions of bits of information every single second, all just to keep you alive.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The brainstem has this especially intimate relationship with your head and your face. And the reason for this goes all the way back to how we're first put together. Okay, so way back around week 4 of development, when we're just tiny embryos, these things called branchial arches show up. Think of them as the fundamental Lego bricks for your head and neck. Each one of these arches develops into specific parts, your jaw, your ears, the muscles you use to smile. And here's the kicker. Each arch gets its own dedicated nerve. And the command centers for those nerves, these little clusters of neurons called nuclei, are located smack dab inside the brainstem. And this chart just shows that direct wiring perfectly. Check it out. The first arch builds your chewing muscles, and they're wired straight to the trigeminal nerve. The second arch, that gives you all the muscles for your facial expressions, wired to the facial nerve. Swallowing, speaking, that's the 3rd, 4th, and 6th arches, controlled by the glossopharyngeal and vagus nerves. All of these nerves plug directly into their headquarters in the brainstem. It's a direct line. So yeah, it's the headquarters for the head. But believe me, its job is way, way bigger than that. The brainstem is running the absolute basics for your entire body. We're talking about the absolute non-negotiable functions for life itself. Just let that sink in. Your heart's rhythm, the constant in and out cycle of your breath, your blood pressure, even the simple act of swallowing so you don't choke, it's all being seamlessly orchestrated from this one small, densely packed area. And it's not just a one-way street, sending commands out. The brainstem is also a sensory superhighway for information coming in. Every sound you hear, your sense of balance from your inner ear, the taste of your food, not to mention every single signal for touch, pain, and temperature from your entire body, it all has to funnel through this central hub before it can go anywhere else. And it's also home to our most critical, hardwired reflexes. You ever wonder how you can read a sign while you're walking, without the words just turning into a blurry mess? That's the vestibulo-ocular reflex. And that's the brainstem doing its thing. The reflexes that make you cough or gag to protect your airway from something going down the wrong pipe, that's the brainstem too. It's an unbelievably functional and dense piece of neural real estate. All right, so now that we've got the grand tour of the anatomy, we can finally solve our puzzle. What happens when this critical crossroads gets damaged? So let's get back to our question. How can one tiny spot of damage, a tiny lesion, cause such a strange, crossed pattern of paralysis? The answer is hidden in the specific, elegant, and incredibly compact wiring of the lowest part of the brainstem, the medulla. It's all about which wires run where, and, crucially, where they cross over.
Okay, this slide right here solves the whole mystery. It all comes down to exactly where the damage happens. Look at the left column. If a lesion hits the middle part, the medial medulla, it can damage two things at once. It can hit the nerve controlling the tongue on the same side, but it can also take out the main motor pathway for the body before it crosses to the other side. So what's the result? You get that crossed pattern, a weak tongue on one side and a weak body on the opposite side. Now look at the right. If the damage is just millimeters away on the lateral side, it hits different nerve tracts, causing a loss of pain and temperature in a similar cross pattern, face on one side, body on the other. It's just a perfect illustration of how much critical wiring is packed into such a tiny space.
And this isn't just some abstract anatomical trivia. This describes what a patient actually feels with a lateral medullary syndrome, damage just millimeters away. The world starts to spin. There's nausea, dizziness, this terrifying feeling of falling. You can't swallow. It just so powerfully illustrates how damaging these tiny packed-in nuclei for things like balance and swallowing can completely shatter a person's reality.
All of this brings us to our final and maybe our most important point. The brainstem isn't just a bundle of wires and reflexes. It is, in a very real sense, the foundation of our being.
So here's the big takeaway. Your cerebrum, the big, wrinkly part of your brain, that's where your thoughts, your personality, your memories live, everything you consider to be you. But the brainstem is what makes any of that even possible. It's the fundamental, non-negotiable platform that keeps the lights on, allowing consciousness to exist in the first place.
Which leaves us with one last provocative thought to chew on. If your conscious mind is the pilot of the plane, but the brainstem is the powerful, unbreakable autopilot that keeps the engines running no matter what does it mean when the pilot is gone, but the plane is still flying? It's a question that gets to the very definition of life, and its answer begins right here, in our body's unsung hero. Thanks for joining this explainer.